Washington's Nigerian nightmare. The LNI monopoly is a joke in Washington. Remembering the fallen and Sheriff David Clark. These subjects and more tonight on Loren Live BMG. I am your host, Christopher Gergen, and with me, as always, is the insubordinate one, Loren Culp.
Thanks, Chris. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad you're here.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
We've got a lot to talk about.
We do. We have a full show for you guys tonight, and we appreciate everybody tuning in. Loren, before we begin, why don't you share with folks about how our day has been? We've had a full day.
Yeah, today was busy. We had a meet and greet this morning and then a rally in Yakima. There were about 250 or so people that showed up at the rally. I spoke about the state of our state. And I also talked about Memorial Day weekend, what it means, remembering our fallen soldiers. And I even read a poem out of American Cop to the audience. So it's very fitting for today. Absolutely.
Well, we have breaking news. Maybe some of you have heard, maybe some of you have not heard, but if this is your first time hearing this, viewer discretion be advised. You're probably going to be upset with this next segment. Lauren, we have a Nigerian nightmare going on right now in Washington State, as if COVID-19 and murder hornets weren't bad enough. Now we've got a Nigerian nightmare here where apparently Washington taxpayers have been defrauded out of unemployment benefits.
Right. Yeah, this is breaking. I mean, some of you may not even have heard about it yet, but hundreds of millions of dollars, the state doesn't even know how much has been scammed out of the unemployment department from the taxpayers. The taxpayers are obviously, they're on the hook for this.
Right.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars just gone.
Hundreds of millions.
Hundreds of millions. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just gone.
Yep.
Don't know where it went. Well, they know it went to Nigeria, but that's about where the trail runs cold.
Yeah. Hopefully the Secret Service, the FBI, somebody can track it down and get it back, but I highly doubt that.
Right.
This just is another example of poor leadership in the governor's office.
So the situation we have, ladies and gentlemen, is we have Washington voters, Washington taxpayers, waiting on unemployment benefits.
Yeah, they're not getting them. They're not getting them. I've talked to a lot of them. They call, they email, they apply, but they don't hear back. Lots of people have been on hold for hours and not gotten through to anybody to help them. And then we find out that the people in Nigeria can get the benefits, but Washington citizens are just on hold. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
According to conservative estimates, since this COVID thing has come down, over 900,000 jobs have been lost in Washington State, or 900,000. March's unemployment rate was 5.1%. April's is 15.4%. What do you think that does to the Washington economy moving forward?
Well, everybody's hurting. Not just the people on unemployment, but Washington businesses. This is going to have a lasting effect, and it doesn't need to be shut down like this. Some states didn't shut down at all.
Right.
Some states are far ahead of us on reopening.
Right.
Nobody really knew what was going on in the beginning. There were some states like South Dakota where the governor of South Dakota understood her role as a public servant, mm-hmm. and understood the confines of the Constitution that keep government from trampling on citizens' rights. The First Amendment is very clear. We have the right to worship. We have the right to peaceably assemble. Those things are not up for negotiation. They are not, it doesn't say in the First Amendment that you have the right to peaceably assemble unless there's a virus,
right,
or unless there's an emergency.
Right.
It doesn't say that. And the Constitution is the rule book for the government. So when you have governors that either don't understand the Constitution, don't read it, or disregard it completely, then you have what we have going on right now in Washington State. And that's a governor who's constantly moving the goalpost, constantly moving the goal. At first it was, we need to shut things down to flatten the curve.
Sure.
And then next week it's something else. And the week after it's something else. And now it's just, we need to be shut down so that nobody's infected, and talking about getting inoculated.
Right.
Where is the end here?
Right.
It's ridiculous. Trampling on citizens' rights shouldn't happen to begin with. The government needs to release people, set my people free.
Right.
Right. Let them get back to work. Let shop owners open their businesses. Otherwise, we're going to be in such a tailspin economically in this state that we're not going to get out of it.
So there's really there's short-term problems here, and there's long-term problems here. How do you see the short-term immediate problems, and how do you see the long-term problems?
Well, short-term, people are hurting.
Sure.
They're not able to get their unemployment benefits. Store owners are not able to open their store and get their businesses back up running. And long-term, this is going to be catastrophic. We're going to, like I just said, we're going to have businesses that aren't going to come back. They're not able to reopen. And we're talking life savings of some people. I know as a small business owner that it's tough, without government jumping in here and turning you off and shutting you down and turning the economy back on. Without that involved, it's hard enough to run your own business and just deal with the regulations and the taxes and paying employees, paying suppliers, and keeping customers coming in the door. That's hard enough. But when you have a governor who, with his hand on the switch to turn your business on or off, it makes it impossible. It's going to lead in the long run to businesses and people leaving the state to go to other states that are more business friendly.
Jay Inslee recently had an interview with Bernie Sanders, and in that interview, he shared that he saw the COVID-19 crisis really as an opportunity.
Right. Yeah. He talked about using this crisis. You can't let it go to waste. Have to use this crisis to push the Green New Deal.
Right.
And that just shows you the mentality of our current governor. He's not concerned about the small businesses. He's not concerned about the employees. He's concerned about his bigger agenda, and he's going to use this crisis to advance that.
So we've got, according to many press reports out there, Department of Transportation is losing $100 million a month because of lack of people driving, paying tolls. We've got Nigerians dining on Washington taxpayer dollars. It's just magically just disappeared. We've got lower tax revenues going into the state treasury. We've got all of these problems, contact tracing. We've got all of these different things to mess up what Washington State. All of that collectively, do you think that creates an environment to fulfill the prerequisites that Mr. Inslee needs to remake Washington's economy?
Yeah,
under the Green New Deal.
Oh yeah, he's going to push that no matter what.
Yeah.
It's going to be a mess. And we've had 35 years of the left control, right? And here we are now with this crisis happening, and then a Democrat governor making it even worse.
Right.
And do we want to continue down that road? Do you want to continue down that road? Or do we want to put someone in charge of the state government, not of our individual lives, but in charge of the state government, who understands the role of government and understands and has a firm grasp of the constitutional limits of government in order to lead our state government out of this crisis that we're in? It's going to take somebody that will get government off of the people's back.
Right.
Get back in the confines of the Constitution and the rule of law, and let people live their lives as they see fit and run their businesses the way that they know how to do it. I have total confidence in the citizens of Washington State. I do not have total confidence in the government. Government is force. Government doesn't create anything. And the initial role of government, if you look at the Washington State Constitution, is to protect citizens' rights. That's Article 1, Section 1. And the power is in the people. Jay Inslee thinks the power is in the government, and the government can fix anything. Ronald Reagan said that the solution is not government, government is the problem.
Right.
And that's very true. We need to unleash the economy of Washington State, and that happens when we release the stranglehold that our state government has on the citizens and the business owners.
So there have been several states that have gone to the federal government in the same way that in 2008, Wall Street came to the federal government asking for a backstop. Washington State is slated to be one of those states that asked for federal assistance. What, in your mind, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, you have 35, 40 years of mismanagement, of doing nothing but growing and growing and growing government, adding more taxes, adding more regulations, strangling the citizens financially, and bad policy where you think that the government can do everything better. You end up with this big bloated government like we have right now. And they're going to use this crisis. There are states already that are looking to the federal government to come in and bail them out for billions and billions of dollars that they have in debt. And I will not be surprised when Jay Inslee says the same thing. And they're going to start screaming, well, we're too big to fail. We states can't fail. The federal government has to bail us out. But why do the people that live in Kansas have any reason to fork over taxpayer money that they've put in to fund a state that has been run poorly? That makes absolutely no sense. We need to get people out of government positions who think that government knows best. We need to have minimal government that operates within the confines of the Constitution,
right,
and allow citizens to be free and run their own business, run their own family as they see fit.
And it also creates what's called moral hazard, to where if the federal government bails out these states, what's to say that the states won't continue to do this in the future?
Well, there's nothing stopping them. There hasn't been for 35 years.
Right.
So I look at it like a family. You know, mom and dad are enablers a lot of times.
Sure.
With drug addicted young adults.
Sure.
That are their kids. You know, they'll give them money, they'll give them a place to stay,
right,
knowing full well that they're going out and they're spending their money on heroin or meth, and that's what the Democrat governors like Jay Inslee are going to expect from the federal government. You know, yeah, we messed up, but we're building our government. Give us some more money because we don't have any, and that's absolutely wrong. Because they will continue to do the same thing.
Absolutely.
There's no indication that Jay Inslee has any idea of changing anything or even knows the correct role of government. If he does, then that kind of makes him evil, I would think. If he knows what he's doing is wrong and
right,
continues to do it.
Right. So either he doesn't know or he does.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's even worse.
That's even worse. Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a lot more to unpack on this issue. And you know, Loren, you and I were talking earlier today. This is something that we really need to talk a lot about on the campaign trail, because the same people that got us into this mess probably aren't going to be able to lead us out of it. Would you agree with that?
Oh, well, they're going to tell us all that they are. Yeah. Sure. I mean, they do every election cycle. You know, give me your vote, give me your campaign donation, and I will fix things. Well, a lot of these people, you know, you look at that even on the federal level, not just the state, but the federal level, these people are career politicians. They've been there 20, 30, 40 years. And every election cycle, they have ideas how we're going to fix this and we're going to fix that. And we're going to take care of these people and we're going to take care of those people. And they get elected again and they continue to do the same thing, running our state into the ground.
because they know they have a backstop with the federal government. They can pretty much do whatever they want, and they believe that they're going to get bailed out.
Yeah,
it's really sad.
It is very sad.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be unpacking this subject a lot over the coming weeks as we lead up to the election. We believe that this issue in particular is going to be one that is very much on the minds of you the voters at home. And it's something that we believe that you're going to want to hear Loren's thoughts on. And so we'll be unpacking this. You know, Loren, you're small business owner for 20 years, over 20 years.
Right.
I love your story. Started with a truck that you bought for $600 on payments.
Right, from my grandpa.
From your granddaddy,
Right.
and that's a great story. One of the things that you had to deal with was L&I. And as you see it, there's kind of a monopoly on that in Washington State. Would you care to talk a little bit about that tonight?
Right. I questioned that a lot when I was running my own business. Had employees. My members of my family currently are business owners in the state.
Mm-hmm.
And we've questioned that a lot. Why does the state of Washington have a monopoly on insurance? Why are employers forced to buy insurance from the state? Why is there no competition?
What is L&I for maybe some of the voters at home, maybe who are not small business owners, maybe don't know what that is? What is L&I?
L&I is Labor and Industries.
Okay.
It's a state department.
Okay.
And employers and employees pay into it. If somebody gets injured on the job,
mm-hmm.
Then they go to a doctor and fill out a form, and the idea is Labor and Industries then pays that bill.
So it's like workman's comp.
Yeah, that's what it is. But I know from experience that it's turned down a lot. Claims are turned down a lot. I've had my own claims turned down over the years.
Wow.
But you're forced. There's no other alternative. You can't go anyplace else and get anything. And monopolies, I thought, were against the law. But it's okay if the state does it.
Right, unless it's the government.
Yeah, but I can. So the insurance, L&I insurance, it only covers the employee when they're on the job.
Okay.
Okay, so when they go home and get hurt or get ill or whatever, they don't have any insurance. It's not, L&I doesn't pay for that. It's only on the job when you're working. So my family and I have talked about this several times. We can get insurance that covers our employees, or they can get insurance, or we can buy insurance ourselves that covers us 24 hours a day. Why isn't there competition? Why won't the state allow competition in that? Right? I mean,
right.
Because you can buy insurance cheaper that covers somebody 24 hours a day than a lot of the different jobs that L&I has, because they have different rates for different careers.
Right.
Yeah. So this is just the kind of forward thinking that I have and that I'm going to bring to the state when I'm governor, and bringing competition to things like that, like workers' comp, L&I. It's going to reduce the cost. That's what competition does.
Well, it necessarily will if they want to stay in business.
Exactly.
Right.
But when you have a monopoly over something, you don't care about the competition.
Sure.
You don't care about giving the best product, because where are people going to go other than you?
Where in the Constitution you're a self-proclaimed constitutional conservative. I know you've read the Constitution front to back. In your book, you discuss the Constitution. Where in the Constitution does it mandate that states or nations should provide L&I insurance?
Well, the Washington State Constitution, I've read it several times. I don't have it memorized.
Right.
So yeah, you're kind of putting me on the spot here, but I don't know whether it is in the Constitution for the state of Washington.
Sure.
It's a lot broader than the federal Constitution, and it gives the state a lot more powers. But
I was referring to the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah, I'll look that up. Well, Washington State Constitution would be the one that it's in if it is. But I'll look that up and I'll have that answer on the next one. But it's not in the federal Constitution. No, nothing about that.
Yeah, I think this goes towards a lot of things that the state and the nation does are not mandated anywhere in the Constitution. They end up in businesses that they shouldn't be in, and it
Exactly.
increases government involvement in people's lives.
Yep, and that goes right along with unemployment insurance. You know, and the Nigerians, taking a lot of money out of the state coffers, hundreds of millions. Why don't employees have their own account?
Right.
Why is that through the state the way that it is? Right. If everybody had their own account and they log in, set their password, wouldn't that be a little bit more secure? And wouldn't that be a little more responsible for the state to do that? And if somebody leaves the state, it's their money in their account. Their money should go with them.
So we give more control. What you're advocating for is more control for the citizens over their unemployment benefits.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm 100% for the citizens. I don't trust the state government to take care of me like I want to take care of me. Just like this health scare that we have with this virus.
Right.
I'm more concerned about my health than a bureaucrat in Olympia is.
Right.
I don't need somebody telling me what I'm going to do, because that person doesn't care about me personally.
Right.
I do.
Right.
I care about my kids' health, my grandkids' health, much more than any bureaucrat that's sitting in Olympia. That's just part of being free, not having a dictator telling you everything.
This idea of having their own account is not one that I've ever heard of before. It reminds me of like an HSA, a health savings account, to where you put money in there for your health expenses. That could be a good possibility moving forward, maybe for this L&I type insurance.
Yeah, anything that takes more of the control and the regulation out of the hands of the government and puts it, empowers the employee and the employer more. Mm-hmm. I'm all for that.
This weekend is a special weekend. As a veteran myself, I know that I'm always very thoughtful and mindful of this weekend. I know you're a veteran as well, the only veteran running in this race for governor.
Right.
This is Memorial Day weekend. Would you like to share some thoughts on Memorial Day with our viewers at home?
Yeah, well, as everybody knows, Memorial Day is Monday. It's not the day that we celebrate veterans. It's the day that we celebrate veterans who've given their life for our country. And it's to me, it's a very somber and serious day. There have been far too many flag draped coffins in our nation's history for us not to pay attention to that.
Absolutely.
And not to celebrate our freedoms, because those are the people who put their lives on the line
every day
and gave up their life to protect our God-given freedoms.
The history behind Memorial Day used to be called Decoration Day,
mm-hmm.
where we would go and we would decorate the graves of the fallen, and it was always meant to be a day to celebrate. And a lot of the reason that we barbecue and spend time with our families is because those were the things that these brave men and women died to give us the right and the ability to do.
Yep. Yeah, you can't celebrate and go have a barbecue with your family like we do in America in North Korea.
Right.
And there's a reason for that.
Yep.
And that's our veterans.
Absolutely. So on behalf of the Loren Culp campaign, we want to thank all of the families of the fallen who have been left behind, the widows, the children, the moms, the dads, the brothers and the sisters who have lost loved ones in foreign wars or even here domestically. We just want to thank you for your family sacrifice and for the sacrifice of your loved one. So
absolutely.
So we have some news coming up next week. We've got a special guest. We've been trying to change things up a little bit here on these live DMGs. Yeah. So I'll let you make the announcement. who are we going to have on Wednesday of next week?
Wednesday, if those of you that came to our event down in Grand Mound, I believe it was in March.
Yep.
Yeah. We had Sheriff David Clark came to that event and spoke, met some people. He was very gracious with his time and took a lot of pictures. And got to meet him. And he is the sheriff from Milwaukee. He's on television a lot, talking about constitutional things and policing in the United States. And he's going to be my guest on Wednesday night on the live VMG at 6:30.
That's going to be fantastic. That's going to be a great show. We've also got a couple of other guests that we're going to bring in. There's a lady who owns a gym that she reopened her gym, and she's been targeted by the state of Washington. We're going to have her here. We're also going to have your master sergeant.
Well, he was my first sergeant.
Your first sergeant.
My first sergeant, yeah. In the 101st Airborne Division.
Yes.
I haven't had any contact with him since I left there, maybe a little bit a year or two after that, but since 1985, probably haven't had any contact with him, and just reconnected on social media.
They didn't have social media in 1985.
No, they didn't. It was a piece of paper and a pen.
What was that?
An envelope.
Snail mail?
Right. Yeah, so we've reconnected. He is retired. He's a Vietnam veteran. And he's retired from the military, and he is a pastor down in Mexico right now.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to having him on as well.
So 40 years ago when you were serving with him, 35 years ago, did you ever in your mind think that he would be a pastor?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Things change, and the
Right.
Lord works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, and life takes you different places. But yeah.
We're also going to have Steve Sexton, who is the mayor of Burlington, who was stood up to the governor as well. We're going to have him on the show. We've got a bunch of great shows coming up next
really looking
week.
forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. So you guys continue to tune in, like it, share it, follow it, let all your friends and family know. Lauren, we had a big milestone again today, continuing to grow this social media movement.
We went over 22,000 followers on Facebook. That's huge, you guys. The competition, I don't even think they're to 9,000.
No. Yeah.
It's crazy. You guys are doing great. Keep sharing, keep liking. It's working. We're getting the word out.
And everywhere we go, every rally we go to, every event we go to, whether it's a Loren Culp for Governor event or it's somebody else's event that we're there,
Right.
There was always people with Culp shirts on or Culp hats on. Like everywhere we go, it's like, you know, driving around, seeing signs.
Yeah, I saw a lot of flags today at the rally
Flags.
in Yakima. People walking around waving the flags, people wearing shirts, people wanting pictures and coming up and thanking me and shaking my hand, and I'm thanking them. You know, this is just, it's incredible.
Back in July, when you stood there and you made your announcement, did you ever think that people would have Culp flags flying in front of their yards?
No, I didn't think that far out.
Did you think that you'd have T-shirts with your face on it?
No. No, I did not. But this campaign is just growing. I mean, it's growing like crazy.
The enthusiasm is really unbelievable, and that's one of those things in a campaign that's a non-tangible. It's one of those things you really can't measure is the energy. And this campaign has great energy, and the followers and the folks at home, those of you that watch us, that tune in faithfully, that tell your friends and like and share, just unbelievable. It
is. It's just, I told this to several people. It's just like it's taken on a life of its own.
It really has.
You know, and it's just growing. It's huge.
It is.
It's amazing.
You know, so before we get into our Q&A, we're going to start the Q&A probably in about 5 minutes, or maybe sooner, 3 or 5 minutes. Loren, can you share with everybody how they can get involved with the campaign and contribute?
Yeah. Yeah, we've got a website, culpforgovernor.com, and here on Facebook at Culp for Governor. We've also got a YouTube page. You just search for Culp for Governor on YouTube, and all of these live VMGs and some of my speeches are going up onto the YouTube page.
Yes.
So that people can go back, they can watch them.
Which is growing.
They can share them with their friends. Yeah.
Have over 1,000 subscribers now on our Facebook page. We just launched it, and or on our YouTube page. We just launched the YouTube page. Over 1,000 subscribers already. Yeah.
And if anybody is interested in getting a Culp for Governor flag or a Culp for Governor shirt, in the comments, type in #yard sign or #flag, and our virtual assistant will get you information right away so that you can somebody can get a hold of you and get those things to you.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to go to our Q&A session here. So our first question is from a viewer. They want to know, what are your thoughts on contact tracing?
Okay, and last night we couldn't see questions.
Right, we can't see them tonight either. We've got someone running back and forth here behind the camera.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
We have an assistant, right?
Yeah, we've got a studio audience tonight.
We do.
And
there's about 10 people sitting here behind the camera actually tonight.
Yeah.
So, okay, what was the question? Contact tracing.
Yeah, contact tracing.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on contact tracing?
I believe that if people want to go along with that and they want to give their information to the government, if they want the government to track them and trace them, then by all means, go ahead.
Sure.
Give them whatever you want. But if people do not want to participate, that's up to them. They have their Fourth Amendment freedoms and the Fifth Amendment as well. If the government wants to track you, then, and you don't want to be tracked, you're not voluntarily telling them that they can track you, then the government needs to get a warrant in order to do that.
Okay.
So if you don't want someone coming to your home and coming into your house or your vehicle or talking to you, then you just tell them, I don't want to talk to you, leave my property. And they can come back with the sheriff and a warrant. So, and if they won't leave, then call your sheriff. But like I said, if people want to participate, go ahead. But if you don't, the government needs a warrant to track you.
So if they're on your doorstep and they refuse to leave, you can call law enforcement.
Absolutely. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that escalated quickly.
That's freedom. That's America.
Exactly.
So the government has no right to intrude on your privacy without your consent or a warrant.
So we have another question from a viewer. Your first 90 days in office, you're sworn in January. It's probably snowing. You're inside the governor's in Olympia. Yeah. Well, for me, it's always snowing everywhere. It's 50 degrees. It feels like it's going to snow. But it's January 2021. What does January to mid-April look like for the Culp campaign? Your first 90 days.
Getting all my department heads in their positions. And I covered this a little bit the other night. All of the department heads that I'm going to appoint are going to have my same mindset when it comes to the rule of law and the Constitution and the role of government, which is to serve the public, to serve the citizens. A lot of times you go to a state agency and you're treated like you're a second-class citizen.
Right.
You're treated like you work for them. Almost
like you're bothering them.
Right. And that's going to totally change. But putting department heads in, making sure that they get their departments up and running the way that they should be, making sure that they understand their role and their job, and getting them in place, getting our government running for the people instead of the way that it has been. And that's one of the things. Another thing is reducing regulations is going to start from day one. Because there's never been a time that I have ever heard of since I've been on this planet, 59 years, where regulations have been lessened. Bureaucrats get in there and I guess they think it's their job to make up new rules, and they just keep adding on and adding on and adding on, and pretty quick you end up where we are now, where people feel strangled by regulations. You know, just trying to do something with your own land is a huge undertaking. Trying to run your own business, there are government regulations all over the place. So those are the main things that I'm going to work on right off the bat.
So, you know, you really came into the national scene because of your stand on I-1639. A lot of people are unhappy with that. We've got a question from the audience. They want to know, how do we repeal 1639? How do we overturn that? And if the effort is successful and came across your desk, how would you handle it?
Well, some of my competitors are asked questions just like this at forums that we go to together. And some of them have said, yes, day one, that law is going away. You know, day one, this law is going away. I'm going to do away with that. Well, we have three branches of government, and the governor is not a dictator. So the governor cannot go in there and repeal a law with his signature. It takes either the legislature has to do it and the governor sign it,
Okay.
or a lawsuit, or an initiative by the people. Those are the three ways. But I want everybody to know, and I talk about this all the time, that whenever any new bill comes across my desk as governor, there's three tests that it's going to have to pass. Number one, is it constitutional? Because the Constitution is the rule book for the government.
Right.
And number two, will it help the citizens of Washington State?
Right.
Because the government works for us. We don't work for the government. And number three is, can we afford it without any new taxes? And if it does, if a bill comes across my desk, it doesn't pass muster with me. If any of those three, it doesn't pass.
Right.
So I won't sign it. I'll veto it.
So it sounds like, you know, a repeal of 1639, which is clearly a violation of the Second Amendment, which is ultimately what you were saying back in 2018, that you know, kind of puts you out there. If that repeal came across your desk, that's
a no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer. You
Right.
would sign that repeal and
and
give
I
people
will,
their rights back.
I would also talk to the U.S. Attorney General.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I mean, we have an Attorney General that's up for election.
Sure.
So if we get a constitutionally minded Attorney General in there, then it's going to be very easy. But if we don't, I will be talking to the U.S. Attorney General's office, because it is unconstitutional. It's very clear. Article 1, Section 24 of the Washington State Constitution says that the right of the individual citizen to bear arms in defense of himself or the state shall not be impaired. That's one simple sentence. So it's very clear that those 30 pages of garbage that are in Initiative 1639 that is now law are unconstitutional.
So let's switch gears a little bit. We have a question about treatment centers. So you're part of your plan on the homelessness. You've identified you're the only candidate in the beginning to identify the homelessness as really a mental health crisis and also a drug addiction crisis.
Right.
The question from our viewers is, you know, a lot of these treatment centers aren't efficient. What reforms would you advocate for these treatment centers to make them more efficient?
Right. I toured a treatment center down in Southwest Washington a few months ago, and they used to take mostly state funding.
Sure.
But the state requires certain things if you take state funding. And one of those was a zero threshold entry, where anybody could come and go. There were very lax rules. But the big thing is they weren't helping a lot of people. They had single digit success rate.
Right.
You know, from getting somebody off the streets, off of addiction, out of the drug world, and into a job and into their own home. Very low. And so they wanted to help their community. And so they completely changed their model. They don't take hardly any more, any state funding. It's mostly funded by people in the community and local businesses. And they're no longer a zero threshold entry. They have security. They have security cameras. They have locking doors. And they have mental health counselors. They have drug addiction counselors. They've got a daycare for family units. You know, the kids can go into the daycare when mom and dad are in counseling, or they're going to look for a job. And their success rate is 78%.
That's unbelievable.
So, yeah, they are actually helping people. And that's why they're getting so much funding from their local community, the local businesses and individuals, because they're helping the community. You know, they're taking people that are addicted to drugs, living on the street. They take them from that point all the way through the process to where they're living on their own in their own home, paying for it themselves, and have a job. That's huge. And if you can do that with 78% of the people that come through that door, that's I mean, no place else does that.
That's a big win.
Most of the places that receive mostly state funding and have the state rules, they won't even tell you what their success rate is. And I want to bring that model all across the state, because that's the number one issue. You know, before this virus started and our government started taking away our rights, shutting down our business, that was the number one issue on the campaign trail people had asked me about. And I've said from day one that that's what we need to do. You know, my competitors, including Jay Inslee, want to throw millions and millions of taxpayer dollars at this problem and build homes for all these people that are living on the street. But if you do that and you build a home or an apartment for every single person that's on the street right now, all that's going to do is create a vacuum for other people living in other states. They're going to want to come here because they want a free house as well. It's going to turn into the next slums, and there's going to be people dying in there from addiction because you're not addressing the core problem.
Won't that make law enforcement more difficult as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because won't they, and I'm not sure the process here, but won't they have to go get a warrant now if they want to?
If you're going to enter someone's residence, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, the left says that it's not compassionate to put addicts in jail. You know, they're addicts. We can't put them in jail. But it is not. It is the exact opposite. People that are stuck in the cycle of addiction cannot quit on their own. They need tough love. They need a boot in the butt.
Right.
And that's what I've seen in my career as law enforcement. I spent 3 years as a narcotics detective.
Right.
And zero tolerance policy. Somebody gets arrested for narcotics. They go to jail. They see a judge. The judge gives them a choice: treatment or prison. And most of them pick treatment. And they come back and they get their life together. They thank me for saving their life.
Right.
Because they're stuck in the cycle of addiction. They cannot quit heroin on your own. It is a very powerful narcotic. It takes that tough love. It takes a boot in the butt. It takes law enforcement to force them into the court system and into treatment. And that's the only way that these people are going to be saved. Leaving them on the street, stuck in the cycle of addiction, giving them free needles, give them a safe place to inject, that's all liberal garbage. It doesn't help anybody. It does not help these people get off of these drugs and get their life together and become productive members of our communities.
You know, something that is unique about you also, not only are you a veteran, only veteran in this race. From what I can tell, you're the only sportsman in this race as well. Hunter, fisherman, so forth. We had a question from the audience. Would you be willing to open up public lands to hunting? What are your thoughts on opening up public lands for hunting?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I've been a lifelong hunter and a fisherman. I remember walking around the woods behind my dad when I was just old enough to walk. And been a deer hunter, an elk hunter, and a fisherman all my life. So yeah, public lands need to be open for hunting. And we need to open up the roads. You know, it started probably in the 90s, early 90s, when they started shutting down road access to public lands. Mm-hmm. And not only just digging them out, putting a ditch in front of them so people couldn't drive in on them, but then putting a gate. And then a lot of them, they brought in heavy equipment and completely took the road out. Mm. So that not only eliminates access for citizens to get into the public land to enjoy our natural resources. But when a fire starts, a forest fire, the fire crews don't have access to drive in to fight the fire.
Right.
So yeah, to answer that question, yes, we need access to our public lands to hunt and fish. And I will appoint people who are real hunters and fishermen to the Fish and Wildlife Commission.
So people who actually understand what it is to be a hunter and a fisherman.
And how it affects Washington citizens on the rules that are made.
So we have a lighthearted question here.
Oh, I like lighthearted.
Mr. Culp, who cuts your hair?
Who cuts my hair?
Uh-huh.
It depends on the day, but I'm in need of a haircut right now, actually. But a barber friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in. So I cut my own hair. So
I can tell.
Okay, so we've got about 45 minutes gone in the show. Let's talk a little bit about America's Sheriff, David Clark, who is going to come and be on the show next week.
He wrote a book, and I just well, it's been a few months ago, but I got it on Audible because I don't have a lot of time to sit and read a book.
Sure.
You know, I spend a lot of time in the car driving because from Republic to go anywhere, it's a long drive. So I got Sheriff David Clark's book on Audible. It's called Cop Under Fire.
Yes.
And you guys should all check it out. Cop Under Fire.
Yes.
It's very good. He breaks down all of the lies from the left media, in particular on the police shootings and the Black Lives Matter, and breaks that all down. Goes through all the reports, all the evidence, and talks about the facts,
Right.
not the emotions that the left media has fueled this hatred towards police officers. He breaks down the facts and lays it all out. It's a very good book.
Sheriff Clark has been a great advocate and voice for constitutionalism and the rule of law, not only in Milwaukee, where he's at, but in Michigan. He was there in Michigan when they went to their state house to protest. He is on Newsmax, Fox, all the different channels.
Yeah, I've seen him on Fox a lot of times.
Sure.
And he's just straightforward, tells it like it is. You can like it or not.
Well, he came out in March and gave his endorsement to you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was huge.
Yes.
Huge endorsement. So you won an award last October.
I did.
And what was that award?
That was incredible. I was invited back to the National Convention for the Constitutional Police and Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, and because of my stance on citizens' rights and standing up for citizens' rights,
Sure.
I was awarded the Police Chief of the Decade award.
That's fantastic.
And Sheriff Bob Songer,
Yes.
from Clickitat County, was also invited back for this convention, and he was awarded the Sheriff of the Year award.
I don't know if you know this, but I'm one of Sheriff Songer's biggest fans. I really like him a lot every
So
time,
am I.
and his wife.
His wife,
Fran.
Fran.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's just I don't know. There's something about him. I just love the two of them so much.
Yeah, I got to see him today too.
We did.
Yeah, he spoke for a little bit at the rally that I was at.
I think he said he'd been in law enforcement 50 years.
Yes, June 1st, 50 years.
Unbelievable.
I know.
50 years in law enforcement. And he's also endorsed you as well.
Yes.
And as have several law enforcement folks. And so we're excited to have Sheriff Clark on the show.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be fantastic. So we're about out of time. Is there anything else that you want to share with the folks at home tonight?
Just everybody, please share this. If you want a yard sign, type in #yard sign. If you want a flag, type in #flag, and share. Share the website, share the Facebook page, share our posts, and we have a weekly VMG swag winner. Amazing. That just came to me from behind the camera. And the weekly VMG swag winner is Corey Bridger.
Hey, there you go.
Corey,
Congratulations.
congratulations, buddy.
Absolutely. We're going to send him out a bunch of great stuff. So we got another week down, and we continue to charge forward. Next week is going to be another big week. We've got a rally coming up in Spokane on Saturday, and Saturday the 30th. So Spokane, Washington, we are coming to see you. They have been asking in Spokane, Loren, for a long time.
Yeah.
For us to come out and
Looking forward to that.
absolutely, it's going to be great. We're putting it together, and we're going to have a lot of these larger rallies that we've been fortunate enough to be a part of. We're going to start producing those, and so Spokane is actually our first date on that big tour and trip.
Wow.
So we're starting it on the east side in Spokane. We're going to be coming out to Tri-Cities. We're going to be coming out to Ellensburg, Wenatchee area, down here in Yakima, over on the west side. We're coming all over the state. So we're excited about that.
Starting after the second week of June, I will be full-time taking some vacation leave from work, and I will be full-time campaigning. So we're going to be hitting all over in this state.
Yeah, everything is going to be go into full gear, fifth gear, leave it all on the field. So we're excited about that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's going to be great. And you guys are doing great on sharing things, keeping our Facebook shared around the state. Donations are coming in. You guys are killing it, and keep it up, please.
absolutely. And also be sure to watch our Facebook page, because we've got pictures from the rally that we're going to start putting up here shortly. So be sure to like and share those. Get the
There
word
might
out.
even be some video that we can share on the Facebook page.
I
as
believe
well.
there is. There's already some people that were there at the rally that have already shared
Right.
the video out there. So so we're excited about that. Well, on behalf of Loren Culp and the Loren Culp for Governor campaign, I am Christopher Gergen, and I appreciate you tuning in to watch tonight's VMG. And we will see you next Wednesday with Sheriff David Clark.
Good night, everybody.